Welcome back, life science learners. And in this segment, we're wrapping up this section. We're going to look at the process of what birth control is and contraception. It's important that we get into understanding what birth control is. But can I pause and go back to just what we were looking at earlier on? We've looked at the process of a natural birth, which we refer to as a vaginal birth. I also need to discuss very briefly what a C-section is before we move on to contraception. So can I take you there very quickly? And so when we look at a C-section, guys, a C-section or a cesarean delivery is a delivery where a surgical procedure is used to deliver a baby through an incision or a cut in the abdomen and the uterus. A C-section might be planned ahead of time for a female that develops pregnancy complications or has had a previous C-section and is not considering a vaginal birth after a C-section. Okay, so here's an image, a beautiful image showing you the process of when a C-section is done, and that shows you the emerging of a baby where a cut is made in the lower abdomen. There are several reasons why C-sections are done. Let's kind of look at some of those reasons quickly and we'll wrap this part of the segment up. So sometimes females go through a prolonged period of labor. Sometimes the babies are too large to fit through the birth canal. There's often an abnormal positioning of the baby where the legs of the baby face the cervix. It could be that the mother has multiple babies, so this has been the second or third pregnancy. There could also be fetal distress, so when the fetus is under some sort of distress and during its developmental stages, the gynecologist will consider having a C-section in order for the baby's best interest. Sometimes there are birth defects where a C-section might be necessary. A female that has had repeated C-sections would have to have a C-section. There could be general health conditions that the mother might face that will prevent her from having a natural delivery. So there are several factors why a C-section are done. And so that's often at the discretion of the gynecologist in consultation with the parents and especially the mother, in the best interest of both the mother and the baby. So let's get on to contraception. So it's important that we try and understand what is contraception. If we break up the word contraception, it's made up of two words, contra and ception. So contra means against and ception refers to conception. So contraception refers to the process of using or taking any method that prevents the process of conception. So contraception is defined as the intentional prevention of conception. And this can occur through the use of various devices, sexual practices, as well as chemicals, drugs, or even surgical procedures. So there's a host of different methods that we can choose, depending on individuals, depending on their time of their life cycle. We might decide and choose different methods of contraception. Why is contraception important? Contraception is important in being able to plan a family. Contraception is important in being able to decide when it's the right time to have kids. So there are different ways of choosing contraceptions. It's important that we understand what are the different contraceptions available. Cool. So the different categories of contraceptions are as follows. So we have natural contraceptives. We can use mechanical or barrier methods. There are also surgical procedures as well as a group of hormonal methods of preventing conception. Let's try and understand what the natural methods are. When we refer to a natural method, we essentially referring to any method that includes actions that prevent or that people can naturally do to help prevent unintended pregnancy. So any natural method does not involve the use of chemicals, any surgery, any pills. It is a natural method that a couple will decide to use to prevent conception. And so one of the most common methods is the rhythm method. This method is based on understanding the calendar and knowing the rhythm in terms of when the female is ovulating. So when we look at the cycle of a female, we know that it takes 28 days, and during that cycle there's a period when a female ovulates. And so that period of ovulation is around day 13 and 14. And so this cycle refers to periods in the cycle of 28 days when a female is infertile as well as most fertile. And so these 7 days that are indicated in red indicate a period when a female is menstruating, and it's during that time that there isn't an egg available, nor is the endometrium available for implantation. During the next 14 days, or the next 7 days from day 8 to day 21, 22, we see that these are days when a female is most likely, or different degrees of likeliness, to fall pregnant or to conceive, with the most being around day 13 and 14 when ovulation occurs. We know that post day 21, the chances of conceiving decrease significantly, and that is because we know that after fertilization, an egg needs around 7 days to further its development. And if you count 21 plus approximately 7 days, that takes us to the end of a cycle on the beginning of a new cycle where menstruation occurs. And so the likelihood of that occurring where implantation takes place is very unlikely. So we refer to that as a rhythm method, as a couple would have to follow the cycle and track events in terms of when menstruation happened as well as when ovulation is likely to happen. And this is not the most effective way, but it is an alternative to people that choose not to use any form of contraception. So, as I mentioned, that was the rhythm method. There are other natural methods which include abstinence as well as the withdrawal method. And abstinence essentially is a method where no sexual intercourse takes place, and obviously it's the most effective method, but it is not actually a preventative method. So abstaining from intercourse is not really a form of contraception, it's abstinence. One other method that we refer to is coitus interruptus, or the withdrawal method. And this is a method when the male partner withdraws the penis just before ejaculation. As much as this sounds very simple to do, it is not an effective mechanism because it has a risk of unplanned ejaculation, which could result in conception. If we look at the next category, and we refer to that as mechanical and barrier methods, this is any method that uses a physical barrier or a mechanical method to stop contraception. Now, we've heard of condoms, and these are essentially latex or different materials that are produced to prevent the release of semen into the female reproductive system. So condoms are barriers that are devices that are used during copulation to reduce the probability of pregnancy or sexually transmitted infections. So one of the benefits of using a condom is that it prevents STIs, and it also works as a effective contraception. So we talk about sexually transmitted diseases, and it's important that we understand that these can be prevented using condoms. So condoms are thin pouches that keep the sperm from getting into the vagina. A male condom is worn on the penis. It is usually made of latex, a type of rubber, and some of these materials are safe for people with there are other materials where some individuals have allergies to latex which are used. So here's an image of a condom that is in its packaging that has been opened. Okay, we also have female condoms called femidoms, and this is a condom that is a pouch that is inserted into the vagina before copulation, and this prevents, so this is an image of it, and this is what it looks like, and that is inserted into the vagina. It has two rings, an inner ring and an outer ring that sits on the external surface of the vulva, and during sex, just before copulation, this is inserted, and this prevents the movement of sperm into the uterus. So a femidom allows a female to be able to control when she has the right to be able to insert that and prevent sperms from entering. Again, it's a mechanism that allows for the female to have more control of this process. There are other methods that a female could use, and this is the diaphragm or the Dutch cap, and this is a contraceptive that is placed inside the vagina. It's a circular dome made of thin, soft, either silicone or other forms of material that is inserted into the cervix to cover the cervix before or during copulation. And this prevents the sperm cells from entering into the uterus. Another mechanical method is called an IUD or an intrauterine device. And so this is a device that is a T-shaped structure that is inserted into the uterus. And this creates a mechanical barrier preventing the implantation of the blastocyst into the endometrium. IUDs can contain a combination of hormones as well as made of a metal called copper. And copper is a natural spermicide that kills sperm. So often when the sperms enter, they are going to be destroyed by the copper oxide, but also this IUDs can contain a hormone that is released gradually that prevent the process of implantation and further ovulation. Okay, there are surgical methods, guys, which is the next category, and this involves where the vas deferens in males are surgically cut and or tied up, preventing the pathway of sperms from moving into the ejaculatory duct. So when they are tied, there's a break in the pathway stopping the sperms from traveling up. These sperm cells will be eventually reabsorbed and broken down in the epididymis. And so when this happens, from about 3 months after a vasectomy, we can see that the semen will contain no sperm, so fertilization cannot occur. So that's an image of a male surgical procedure. We also know that this procedure can occur in females, and it's called a tubule ligation. And this is when the fallopian tubes are either tied up and cut, and this prevents an egg from meeting a sperm that may travel up the uterus. Okay, and this is a larger indication of how that pathway is disrupted. We also have a surgical procedure called a hysterectomy, and that is a procedure that involves the removal of the uterus or the removal of the uterus and the ovaries. So essentially this prevents any release of eggs or implantation of a fertilized egg in that chamber. We also, guys, as we wrap this section up, we have hormones that are used, and we have the contraceptive pill. And these pills contain a combination of estrogen and progesterone and are used to ensure that we can control the process of ovulation and prevent an egg from being released. So guys, we've looked at in this segment various types of methods that prevent conception. And the 4 main categories are natural, mechanical barrier, we looked at surgical procedures, and finally we looked at contraceptive methods that involved chemicals. And these chemicals prevent either ovulation, prevent the release of an egg, and come in combinations of either patches, a strip of pills, or even in terms of implants and injections that could be given. So there are various different methods of contraceptives that are available. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Thank you for staying tuned. I trust that you guys are well. Enjoy your day and have a baie lekker time. Cheers. Bye.